Okay, welcome to this new space, to this new arrangement of the seats as well. I hope you will enjoy it. So today we're just going to get over what we were missing yesterday, which was replacing HTML elements. Now, so actually, let's see deleting the HTML elements again, but sort of with this, analyzing this example that we have here. Let's do this. HTML, oops. Okay, so what do we remember from removing elements from the DOM? I should have. Yeah. What do we remember about removing elements from the DOM? What's the name of the function that we need to call?
Remove child.
Remove child, great. Now, if I want to remove, what are the two pieces of, or the two objects that I need to be able to remove something from the DOM? Or let me ask you this question. What's the argument that needs to be passed in to remove child?
Element tag.
The element tag. So to the remove child function, we need to pass in the element that we want to remove. That's the argument that gets passed to remove child. The element that you want to remove. Now we use that remove child on an object, right? Because we do something that remove child. Is that clear? Now, what is that something? When we say something that remove child, and then we pass in the child that we want to remove. Let's see. Savita. The parent node. Thank you. So we will need to have the parent and then the child to be able to remove any element from the DOM. So let's look at this example here. We have one div with two paragraphs, para 1 and para 2. Then we have a button, and then that button has an attribute called Unclick. Did you all see Unclick before? Where did you see it? Where? The lab? W3 schools. Great, that's great because I don't remember ever talking about Unclick, so I'm really proud of you that you found it. So Unclick is an attribute just like an ID, or like source for images or type for inputs. Just another attribute, but this one is sort of special because the Unclick attribute allows to invoke functions that we have written in our JavaScript code. So let's look at here. The Unclick is trying to call a function called the delete first paragraph. And we see that we just use the name of the function and the regular parentheses. Right? Because we want to invoke the function. Now let's look at what that function is. So in our script tag, we have a function declaration. It's called delete first paragraph. And then inside this, the function body, which is all this inside the curly brackets, we have division 1. We grab in that div by using document.getElementById, right? And then we grab the paragraph 1 by doing document.getElementById para 1, where we pass in the ID of the first paragraph. Then lastly, we say parent, which is division 1, that remove child, para 1. We want to remove the first paragraph of the division 1 element. So let's see how this will work. Let's open this here. So this gives us this website. And if we inspect the source here, if we do right-click inspect, we see that this code, this HTML code, matches exactly what we have typed in our editor, right? That shouldn't be a surprise. Now, let's see what happens once we hit this button. Is that a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Put the button inside the div.
Why didn't I put the button inside a div? We could have done that. That would have still worked. It just sort of saying the button will be independent of this container of this division that will have something that I want to remove. So yeah, for this demonstration, the button is outside of the div, but that doesn't affect much. So let's see what happens once we run this. Let's click this button, and the first paragraph is gone. And it's like really gone, because if we inspect here in the body, we have the div, and we only see para 2. Right? So here, look at it. If we don't, let's not remove this. I'm not sure if this will. And instead of removing an element, let's do, for instance, console.log button clicked. So I'm going to refresh. I'm going to open the console. So instead of removing the paragraph 1, this button will just console log, hopefully. Let's click it, button click. If I click it again, button click now has been logged twice, and I could just keep going. So this is how we could have a button that has an Unclick attribute. The value for that attribute is the function call. As long as that function is defined in my script, the button, once it gets clicked, it will call or it will invoke that function. So comments or questions on this are welcome, encouraged. Like, yeah. What would be a good use case for this type of behavior where you have a button and remove something? Sure. Removing something from a shopping cart. That's correct. Right? Maybe you want to, so you no longer want to buy it, then you remove it completely. Any other use cases? What else would you want to remove from a website? Your history. You could write a JavaScript program that does that, but browsers do that already. If you go to your history, you can delete it that way. But and another real world example. Maybe on Slack. Let's look at on Slack. Hello. Do you know that Slack is actually a website? Right? And this is even a website. This is not an app. This is somebody wrote this website, and he wrote it so that it looks like an app and it behaves like an app, but it's actually a website. So I sent that message, but I don't want to have that message anymore. I delete it. Because this Slack is a website that my message was put in a paragraph or a div, and then I click delete, and it removed it. Just like this. You guys can see that it even has, I go here to more actions, and then I hit delete, and then this button, this red button, will have an Unclick that will remove the message. What else could we have? Or any other questions on this one? What if I don't want to use get element by ID? What's the other alternative? Query selector, right? How would I grab this same div using the query selector? I know I do query selector, but do I need to change anything else? Put the div tag. What do you mean by that? Instead of div1, I put just div. Okay, what would this do? Would it grab it by ID, or would it grab it by tag name? Suzette?
It will grab it by the tag name, because we need the hashtag for div if you're going to do div1.
Great observation. Yes, this will grab the div by the tag name. But in this case, I just wanted to grab it, I do want to grab it by the ID. So as Suzette mentioned, if you want to grab it by the ID, then you need to add the pound sign here. Or the hashtag. Now, if I try this, oh, I forgot the div1 because there is no such element called with ID just div. We have a div1. Oops. Div1. Now we still remove that. Oh, look at that. What happens when I click again and keep just clicking? A little bit louder. Correct. There is no more. We don't have first para or para 1 anymore. Therefore, you cannot find it. And then we say fail to execute remove child on node. Parameter 1 is not of type node. That is here division by para 1. When we first started, it will find that paragraph, right? But once we remove it, it's completely gone, and we try to grab that para 1 again. What happens when we try to grab something, or what's the return value of document get element by ID when you couldn't find that element? Not false. It's a false value, but it's not false. Undefined. Undefined is close, it will give you null. And then this is saying parameter 1 is not of type node. So that says because we are trying to do, we're trying to pass parameter 1 or para 1 to remove child, but this para 1 is null. It's no longer the node, it's no longer the element, it's null, and then this is what we get. Parameter 1 is not of type node. Cool. So that's remember that we need both. We need the parent and the child that we want to remove. Also, what if I don't want to do this line? Oh, no, not that one, but this one. How can I get to the parent having only the child? I showed this yesterday briefly. Yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
to add the body?
I don't want to add the body now.
That parent,
That parent on who?
even with that parent,
Oh, but remember that I no longer have division 1. I no longer have division 1. So, just having the child, can I get to the parent? There is, if we look at the console dir, let's look at the child. All right. Let's look at the child. Para 1. And if we look inside of it, we can see all the attributes, right? All the properties. Oh, I don't know. Wait. And here, if we look carefully, we should find something interesting. Parent node, who said that one? Yes, correct. If we look in here, we'll find something that says parent node. So the child keeps a reference to the parent. Also, by the way, sorry about that. Yesterday, that I said that it's good to know like who your parents are in real life. I think that was not very tactful. So, yeah. So here, just remember that the child keeps a reference to the parent. And then, if you have the child, you also have the parent because you can just do child that parent node. So that's what we can do here. Instead of grabbing the parent individually, because the parent has a reference to, the child has a reference to the parent, we could just do this. Or we could do let parent is equal to para1, that parent node. So we save the parent in here, and we know that we can find the para1 parent inside para1 that parent node. It's sort of weird because if you think about it, it's as if the child had the parent inside, right? And that's kind of weird. But it's more. You can think of it as the child, which is parent 1. Let's just call this child. No, this is parent. This is child. This is child. The child keeps a reference. It knows where to find the parent, and it has that in a property called parent node. So here we could, if you think about it, it's sort of weird that we can get the parent through the child, and that the parent is a property in the child called parent node. So once we have that, then we can just say parent that remove child. Just remember, the child keeps a reference to its parent. Do we have, why would this be useful? Why keep, well, one example is this example, which is, instead of having to grab the parent separately, you could just access it through that parent node property, and that will save you a line of code. Not that lines of code matter that much, but yeah. I'm trying to think of another example where having the parent node could work out. One option that I'm thinking about is maybe, oh yeah, this one is a good one. If you have two lists, one order and one unordered, but you want to grab the first element, but you don't know, but you want to only remove that node. You only want to remove the li if the parent is the ul, the unordered list. If you have the parent node here, then you could check what kind of list is this li coming from. And if it's coming from the ul, then you remove it. If it's not, then you keep it and don't do anything with it. Cool, so we have that. Let's see that this still works as expected. And we can remove that. Any questions on this one? Thoughts? Yes, Malik? Would it still work if I didn't set the parent to a variable first? Yes, but what do I need to change in here? Correct. Yep.
So what do we ever need to like, when is it necessary to grab a parent?
This is a use case where you want to remove without having to have another query selector or get element by ID.
Let's see, you could just use a query selector. It's not good.
Yes, but why? Well, if there is a more efficient way of doing it, which is not having to look for the parent because you already have it. Yeah. So Malik's question was like, would it still work if I don't set the parent to a variable? If I could just say child.parent node, remove child. Let's see. Still works. Okay. Any other questions? This code is in the lecture note for replace element, remove element.
The syntax for the parent guy, parent node.
What's the syntax? What do you mean?
When you put how you want to use the child at parent node.
Oh, this one? This line 13?
Yeah.
So you're asking me about the syntax.
Yeah, because before you had it as that L1 parent node, right?
I think I'm lost.
You had parent that removed child, right? And then I was trying to figure out what was the syntax exactly for that.
Oh, before we were grabbing the parent through another query selector. And then we were, we have this, the vision one. This is what we had before. Also, all these functions are documented. That's the good thing about what we do. Somebody took the time to document all this so that we can find it and learn more. So if you go here and you do remove child JavaScript, you get the two sources of information, W3 schools and remove child with MDN. And it tells you here, the remove child removes method, the remove child method removes the specified child on this specified element or on the specified parent. It returns the removed node as a node object or null if the node does not exist. Okay, should we move to replace element? It's not that different from remove child, actually. We'll see. Now, let's say we have, instead of wanting to remove Let's see what the example we had in here. Let's look at this one. Replace. HT. Okay, so this one is similar to what we had before. We still have the two paragraphs. Let's just kind of walk over this one before we run it. The two paragraphs. Then we have a button, and then we have the function that is going to be called Unclick. Once we click that button, this function will get called, which is replace first paragraph. And then we have our function, and inside the script tag. Inside there, we have we grab the paragraph, the first paragraph, using query selector and passing in the tag name. Then we have a new node that is going to be created by doing document.create element. What kind of element are we creating here? P tag element, right? A paragraph. Then we say, okay, new node, inner text, be equal to, here's a new random number, which is just a string, and we're joining that string with the result, or we're concatenating that string with the result of calling math.random. And what does math.random do? What do you think? Let's see. Giselle, what do you think? Correct. Math.random will give you a random number between 0 and 1, not including 1. Again, there is the documentation for that as well. And then lastly, we just say first paragraph dot parent node. So we're grabbing the parent node of the first paragraph. Who's the parent node of the first paragraph? The div. That's correct. And then we say replace child. And then replace child takes in two arguments, two nodes or two elements. The first is the new node, whatever you want to put in that is new. And the second one is the element that you want to replace. So replace child, instead of needing two elements like remove element, now it needs three elements. It needs where do you want to replace, which is the parent, what do you want to replace with, and then what do you want to replace. In this case, we want to replace the first paragraph with the new node, which will have the random number, and we want to replace that in the parent node of the first paragraph, which is the div. Now let's see this in action. Let's do this. Now we replace the first paragraph and it showed a new paragraph that says here's some new random number. 0.2.0, no, 0.20833, etc. What happens when I click it again? See how? It will change the number. But how does it know like which one to replace? How is it that is to replace? It needs to have what is it what is it that we want to replace and with what we want to replace. Malik, Spot on. Query selector here will find the first element that matches the selector, which in this case is a tag name. Because query selector will find the first one that match, the first one will be this new paragraph. This new paragraph. So thanks to query selector grabbing by tag name, and because it finds the first one, that becomes first paragraph. Even after it has been replaced, that becomes first paragraph, and then we just do, okay, whatever parent of first paragraph, replace the child, where you plug in the new node, and replace it. You plug in the new node, which is the new stuff that you want in, and the second argument is the old node that you want to replace. Questions on this one? What's a good use case for a replace node? This one is sort of abstract. Can we come up with something that's a little bit more real world? Owen? Calculator. Let's see, Michael. Changing names. Could you expand on that?
Like, say, Twitter, my own personal profile, to replace that name, I click on another.
Oh, okay. Like when you go from one profile to another person's profile, you're replacing the nodes. Yeah, that could be a one. Yes, Cameron? Flipping a coin. Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, if you have sort of a game that at any point you replace, you're displaying one face of the coin, and then you replace it, you flip it, and you replace it with the other face of the coin. Another one similar to that, like playing when you're playing a game of cards or poker, right? Where you get your cards, or solitaire, you get your cards and they are like face down, and they're not really flipping, right? Because we don't. Well, they're not truly flipping. If in a basic version of solitaire, they're not truly flipping. You just replace that card that's face down with the version that's face up. Like games nowadays are pretty realistic, and they make the animation look like it's actually flipping, but it's a visual illusion for the most part. Because there's no really gravity in that game. There's nothing that'll make that real. Cool. Anything else here that I should spend more time on? Yes, Jan.
What if you wanted to replace both paragraphs, not just one?
Oh, that's a good question. What if you want to replace more than one? Maybe I don't know, to be honest. Maybe there is a replace all method. Let's find out. Let's go here. Let's open this. Remember that the inspector you could also open with Command-Shift-C as a shortcut. So here I'm going to try to do, let's grab the div, let div equal document get element by, query selector div. So I have the div here, which is the parent. Then so the div is actually what I'm going to do replace child with. So let's start to type replace, and let's see what we have. It says just replace with prepend replace child. So it seems like we don't have a replace all. But let's look at if we don't have a replace all, let's look at what the documentation says about replace child. Maybe the replace child is able to remove more than one. Replace the text. Let's see the documentation. Replace a child node with a new node. The new node could be an existing node in the document, or you can create a new one to remove a child node from an element. Then this is the syntax: node or the parent, replace child, dot replace child, the new node versus the old node. Both of those arguments are required, as it says here. So if you skip one of them, you're probably going to get an error, since they say that they're both required. So it seems that we don't have a method to remove all of them or replace all of them at once. So if we don't have that, but we still want to pursue that, how could we do it? Yes, Douglas?
Will script that's run within a divide only affect things that are within that divide? So therefore, you can make two divs, like make two pockets, and then do it twice. But
you mean if I want to remove both paragraphs, then I could just grab this div and replace the entire div with a new one that has other paragraphs?
No. I guess what I was trying to say was, imagine grabbing para 2 from div 1, creating div 2, putting para 2 into div 2, and removing, like you're basically removing one paragraph, paragraph, rather than trying to remove para 1 and para 2 at the same time from the same divide, creating two divides and remove one paragraph and still look the same on the website, I think.
I think, what if we want to remove these two paragraphs, then we could just remove the div, right? Because the div contains the two paragraphs. It's as if we have a box with two other small boxes, and I want to remove the two small boxes, we just take the big box and throw it out of the window. Or also, let's say we have another paragraph, and I don't want to remove them all. I just want to remove the two first ones. How could I do that? O'Neill? Okay. I could try to do query select all, and then it's going to give me all the paragraphs. Is that correct? And then how do I make sure that I only remove the two first ones?
Create a loop until the second, first index, and then place.
That's correct. So we could use query selector all to get all of the paragraphs, and then that gives us a what? Like, what is the return value of query select all? An array-like object, an array-like list, not really an array. Right? You have the list is indexed. You have a for each with the list, but it's not truly an array. So then you can loop over that list, and then once you see, and let's say you're looping with the regular for loop with an I starting at 0, you could just check. You could just loop actually up until the point where I is 1, which is element 0, element 1. Up until that point, you loop, and for every loop, you are removing the element. And then the third one will remain. Other comments on this? Replace child. Cool. Okay, let's go do the exit ticket, and then after that, we're going to be working in the lab. Let's take 15 minutes for the exit ticket. Refresh your canvas if you haven't, because I just updated the time for the exit ticket to be 8.
even when you append the child, it comes after.
Mhm.
How you append before? Is it possible?
There must be
Oh wait.
there must be another append function that might do that.
Look for
Mhm. Raise your hand if you need more time. That's okay. Cool. Okay, let's do 5 more minutes. Anyone needs more time? Cool. So the lab, let me know, do you guys see it on Canvas? Some people are not seeing it on Canvas. Let's see. Okay, it's not here. No. It's this one. Oh, it's not this one. Yeah, there's the one below, which is DOM creating elements. So this one does have the exercises. So you'll find it in DOM creating elements on your Canvas or Google Calendar. Also, so for this one, we want you to do something called pair programming. And pair programming is working, as its name suggests, with a pair. Right? So you will be working with the person who is next to you. And I was looking at this piece of research here that from I don't know if some researchers were looking at the performance of software engineers working in pairs versus not, and this is what the conclusion of that research is. In 2000, this guy called Ken Beck suggested that pair programming will improve software quality, increase learning outcomes, and reduce duration of programming tasks. So this is something that is actually done in the real world, in the industry. You will often be working or program with a pair. According to our meta-analysis, and then this goes into, well, it does. According to our meta-analysis on subsequent research into this topic, he was correct. So pair programming does improve software quality and learning outcomes. And then it goes into explaining some other stuff, saying that it could be organizational outcomes that are a bit tricky. And here I wanted to look at this, and I was thinking if this was a good or a bad point. It says, pair programming is more effective than solo programming in improving quality when pairs are similarly skilled. Right? So I was thinking about this, and in the classroom we have the entire range of skills, right? Some of you are ahead, some of you are lagging a little bit behind, and that's okay. That's every other classroom. You are at different levels. You have your own learning style and learning ability. And here in this exercise, we don't need to improve the quality of the software that you're going to write. Right? We're just learning. We're still learning, right? So it doesn't matter if you're paired with somebody that knows more than you, or if you're paired with somebody that knows less than you. If you know more, that's great for you. And please try to explain and be calm with the other person who may not know as much as you. And if you don't know that much, make sure you ask questions of that other person who may know more than you. Make sure that you challenge them and explaining why something works and why something doesn't work. If it doesn't make sense to you, make sure you ask for that. So this, again, you're going to be working in the lab with whoever you're sitting next to. That's it. Any questions or comments? Yeah, it is up. Is the create an element? No, not create an element. This one is the second one, the one due at 10 p.m., which I'll change to be due before class tomorrow. So I want to see you working with each other. If you already started, make sure that you discuss with your peer what you already have. make sure that both of you understand the code as I'm running right now.
Yeah.
Michael. I'll encourage everyone to change actually to VS Code. It's just that it has helpful more. You can change anything. Yeah, actually, you guys are doing that too. So, yeah, you guys can change it. And the files will still remain in the computer. Now that instead of viewing them, you will view them with VS Code. So let's go through the browsers you can run and typing VS Code. Download this. Yes. So that's a zip file that's going to decompress, and that's going to create a VS Code program that you put in your download folder. The next thing after that is to move that VS Code program from the download folder to the output. That's it. You're familiar with that step. And after that, there's one step that you will also need to do so that you do the way you do add period to open the folder. Double click on
Yeah, no.
Oh, you can just drag my with only with one front. Yeah. You can use like another one to you already have it here. So click stop. Now both of you open VS Code. You can open it with the command space bar. Yeah, but those are not the
Yeah. No, you can do that. Make sure it's out.
Your file, that's fine, because your file does say. Yes. Okay, so that. Now, to do Command Shift G. Yes, code, sorry. Yes, code Command Shift G, and you type install.
Yeah.
Now, go back to your terminal. And then you can say code period. Just like that. That opens the pipe folder. That's because it's like the entire home folder. So that's and also because this custom like That makes sense because if you know that the child has a like you could basically write another version of the child that doesn't exist. You know that the child no, you don't have to put it, but it's good practice to say what the script is because there are others.
I give my point.
More is
No, yes, they don't use our and it's targeting the tag. Yeah. Put the name of the tag.
you could create a different one as long as you use like that one. As long as it has a name, as long as it doesn't have a name.
So they put it like
So because of that, one use
the heading. Well, yeah, we'll talk about the heading last week.
because
Well, that would be yeah, because it's not
Whatever it is, it's
For a question for any other questions? like the source.
Yeah.
So you want us to like copy paste it, basically?
Yeah.
Can I just remove the object and then just give the let results equal to the rate?
Yes, that's fine.
It's pretty much have to go into for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.